Breaking news. Is Ukraine doomed to failure? Many people think that the peak of public support for Ukraine has been reached, and that things can only get worse from here. There has been almost no movement on the vast frontline between Russia and Ukraine in almost a year, and the conflict between Israel and Hamas is intensifying every day, threatening to spill over into a wider regional conflict and divert attention away from this confined conflict. In fact, the war in the Middle East is taking away the focus from the conflict in Ukraine, as even Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky admitted just recently. He denies, however, that a stalemate has been reached in Ukraine's war with Russia. General Valery Zaluzhny, the head of the Ukrainian armed forces, said in a recent interview with The Economist that the fighting reminds him of the great conflict of a century ago. We've reached the technological impasse that characterizes wars of the past, such as World War I. No significant and aesthetically pleasing new development is likely, he continued. The war, now in its 89th week, will almost certainly continue into the new year. Questions like, what happens to Ukraine now? And, have their allies abandoned them? Are being asked as the world's attention shifts away from the conflict. Respect even in the midst of battle. Since the summer, Ukrainian forces have reclaimed a tiny sliver of territory. Russia still occupies nearly 20% of Ukraine. The Ukrainians are on the back foot in some areas as Russia sends in more troops and weapons. This is the case around Avdiivka and Vuhledar in Donetsk and near Kupiansk in Kharkiv. 4 months should have been enough time for us to have reached Crimea, to have fought in Crimea, to return from Crimea and to have gone back in and out again. The Economist quoted General Zaluzhny as saying, Russia's defenses, on the other hand, have proven insurmountable. When Russian minefields are breached, they are quickly and cheaply repaired via remote minelaying. Ukraine has relied heavily on armament supplies it has received from allies up until the 24th of February, 2022. However, these supplies are not infinite and are already running low. NATO's top military official, Admiral Rob Bauer, said in early October, the bottom of the barrel is now visible. Some steps have been taken, such as increasing production, toward solving Ukraine's munition supply problems, but it will likely be a few months before any significant progress is made. Even if Ukraine's projected production were to reach its needs in the second half of 2024 or the beginning of 2025, the heavy artillery fire along the 850-kilometer front line of the war would likely delay that until well into the following year. Minister Alexander Kamysahan claimed to the international media that Ukraine is supplying the battlefield with locally produced munition, but he did not provide any specific numbers. He went on to assert that in the past 10 months, production of artillery ammunition has multiplied by 20. Without access to the raw data, however, these assertions are meaningless. For the first 20 months of the conflict, the Ukrainian military struggled with a lack of shells, forcing them to repeatedly resort to makeshift solutions. The recent Russian offensive near Avdiivka in eastern Ukraine is a sobering reminder that Putin still harbors serious territorial ambitions in Ukraine. It's possible that he'll make an effort to expand his territory in the coming weeks and months. It's unlikely that the Russian Prime Minister will be satisfied with purely defensive operations. The upcoming election in 2024 is a major factor, as he will want to show his strength to voters. It appears that the Russian commanders are not concerned about suffering heavy casualties. The sheer size of the Russian army and its ongoing superiority in terms of overwhelming firepower should be taken into account here. Ukrainian soldiers have been under constant fire from Russian helicopters since the beginning of their counteroffensive. From a safe distance, Russian jets fired missiles at Ukrainian towns and positions. It's not hard to see that Russia has a superior air force. Ukraine can level the playing field if the US delivers on its promise of F-16s. Even though the Russian military has lost over 100,000 men, according to various estimates, General Zaluzhny claims that they have learned from their mistakes and improved as a result. Its electronic warfare capabilities have eroded Ukraine's advantage in precision munitions, and it has streamlined its supply chains. According to the general, only a radical advancement in technology could end the impasse. However, BBC Russia stated that since February 2022, the Russian military has lost at least 35,000 men. By the beginning of this month, Russia could have lost as many as 72,650 people, and that's the low end of the estimates. This number does not include those who fought against Ukraine as part of the military units of the self-proclaimed DPR and LPR. In 2024, Russia is not anticipated to face severe munitions shortages like Ukraine is. Putin has been working hard for over a year to get a sizable chunk of the Russian economy into a state of war readiness. Despite some bumps along the way, the results so far have been promising. A large increase in military spending is included in Russia's 2024 budget, which, along with other initiatives, will ensure that Putin's troops have enough supplies for the coming year. According to Ukraine's Chief of Staff Zaluzhny, who spoke with The Economist, Russia will maintain an advantage in armaments, equipment, rockets, and ammunition for some time. Despite the fact that Russia's military successes to date have been few and costly. When compared to Ukraine, they have a larger population and require less assistance from abroad. Aid delivery. Likely to decrease in speed and volume. The European Union, EU, has announced a new multi-year support package worth €50 billion to be delivered through 2027, doubling the total EU commitments. In addition, several European countries have made substantial new multi-year commitments, including Germany's €10.5 billion military support package over 4 years, 2024 to 2027, and Norway's €6.6 billion Nansen support program, over 5 years. Denmark, the United Kingdom, Switzerland, Sweden, Portugal, and Lithuania all pledged additional multi-year packages. Since the conflict began, the United States has given Kyiv over $43 billion in security assistance. A new $425 million military aid package for Ukraine was announced earlier this month by the United States, the largest provider of such aid to Ukraine. This set of weapons and equipment, paid for by the Ukraine Security Assistance Initiative, USAI, includes air defense, artillery munitions, and anti-tank weapons. Due to the fact that the munitions are not being drawn from American stockpiles, their arrival on the battlefield will be delayed. According to the Pentagon, the remaining USAI funds currently available to support Ukraine have been expended, due to the package. But, is that sufficient? In recent months, the people of Kyiv have been increasingly concerned as the matter of ongoing U.S. military aid to Ukraine has become entangled in domestic American politics. Opinions on the war are changing in Ukraine's most important ally, the United States, and not just in Congress. A new Gallup poll shows that 41% of Americans, up from 29% just 5 months ago, think the United States is helping Ukraine too much. The percentage of Republicans who hold this view increases to 55% as the 2024 election draws near. Congress's inability to reach a compromise has also prevented military aid to Ukraine from being disbursed. Republicans in Congress have been resistant to the Biden administration's attempts to condition a year's worth of aid, $24 billion, on other funding priorities, such as aid to Israel.